Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Howell, Bashim Shai, Bahashim, Chakudash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim, to Zadakim, that do the singing the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled Donald Trump, President Trump, having federal agents or federal troops take over D.C. Trump has federal troops take over D.C., right? Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States, right? And, this stems... Well, it was the catalyst was a former Doge employee named Big Balls got brutally attacked trying to defend a woman that was being robbed, and his attackers were teenagers. So Trump is like, look, to hell with this shit. The crime has gotten too out of hand in these liberal states, because he wants to start with DC and then expand to liberal states. Liberal states are like blue states, Democrat states. Not every single Democrat states, but those liberal Democrat states. Like you got pretty bad out here in New York. They were very lax on crime, very lax on immigration, and the shit went chaotic. I know Chicago as well, and California. So it's filled with crime. It's filled with homelessness, because these liberals have an idea of, let everything be socialized, right? Let the government take care of people, and of course everyone should get second chances. So they're not very strict on crime, and then people who should be arrested and put away for periods of time, guess what? They let them right back out, and people are sick of it. Now, the mayor of DC said crime has been down 35%. Dabu 7, I remember he brought that point out that, that they could be using this as a guise to, issue martial law, increase government expansion, which of course, Now, the whole thing about then Dabu 7 proceeds to say, look, crime is down. But really, we have to take things into context, because, yeah, the mayor said crime is down 35%, but like Osman Gold mentioned, what if it was up 200% last year and it's down 35%? It's still up 30%, right? So you have to still take these things in consideration. Down 35% according to what, And the people that live in D.C., they don't feel it's down at all, So this is what I mentioned too with this devil. Like, he could use organic events, all right, to move his agenda. But even on a deeper level, okay, they allow these cities to get this way. There's something called auto abkeo, because look, there's times in New York history where, like in the 70s, crime was fucking just crazy. Then Giuliani came in, cracked down, okay, and then in most recent years during the pandemic, on the Biden, crime went back up. They opened up the borders, very lax on crime, and now you got Trump back. Now they're trying to push down on crime. So they have knee-jerk reactions. But look, anytime you give up your liberty for safety, you end up losing both, right? So, federal troops. He's talking about using the National Guards, FBI agents working overtime to protect the city. So this could be a test run. 2 Corinthians 2:11 reads, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices." And Satan, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, is Esau, the so-called white man. And we're primarily speaking about these elites and their puppets that they put in these roles, such as presidents and these things, and to further their agenda. And we've been saying for a while, prophesying that this man is going to roll, all right? He's going to just look for what we call black swan events, all right? You need one black swan event, and then typically they issue out some groundbreaking shit, 2020, we have to go back to that, because that was a prime example of that, where they shut down the world, And they think these things through, all right? They think of and orchestrate things, and they also think like this: what if this does happen? Then we could implement that, And if it's going to take too long, then we'll create our own moment. Prime example, PNAC, Project for a New American Century. They wanted to topple 7 nations over there in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Project for a New American Century, and they said, look, we need like a Pearl Harbor like event, which they staged Pearl Harbor, and sure enough, 2 years later they got their 9/11. So that's how they operate. You see, Genesis 3:1 says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Now the serpent, it means serpent-like, snake-like. It doesn't mean there was an actual serpent on his belly, a snake. It wasn't talking about the creature, the snake. It was talking about a man, all right, a snake-like man. This man being Esau. Now at the time, when he was in the garden, he had his pigmentation, you know, but he was still that devil. You see, was more subtle than any beast. He's under the web, you know, and the beast represents the other nation. So when it comes to subtlety, the so-called white man is top amongst these nations, man. All right. One of the most subtle thing they use is something called gradualism. All right. Slowly but surely we'll get our way. Which you could use that in righteousness, and you could use it in wickedness. You know, you could gradually, in a positive way, implement cultural change. All right, changing behaviors for the positive. But the so-called white man has done that on the left-handed side, to where he's gradually made the society more fucked up and demented. Now you got niggas, I saw some trend that they doing, walking around with skirts and shit, you see? But you couldn't have done something like that in the 50s and the 70s, hell no. You had to gradually went from, you know, baggy clothes and make the clothes tight, then, you know, make them niggas metro, and now, you know what I'm saying? Make alphabet more acceptable, and, you know, put your gender down and all this type of shit, like to the point where they're feminized men. You know, I think they said that the average man today's testosterone is the same testosterone level that your grandma had in the 60s or some shit like that. Some ridiculous number, but the testosterone is low. Men are more feminine, weak, you know. And then women, they've switched the role where they tell them to be independent and masculine. And what does that do? Well, that delays women from, or even considering having children. You know, they chase their careers, and now, well, they're trying to establish a family in their 30s and 40s and shit. It'd be too late a lot of times, you see. And the thing is, a degree can't bring back your youth. You see, a college degree can't bring back time. You know, but at any time you could get a college degree. So what they should do is they should prioritize the family first, and if they want to pursue that career, they could do that. But in this society, again, things are flipped. Again, that was all through gradualism. So going back to this, it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua had made. And that's the whole point. That's all I really want from Genesis, the 3rd chapter. The Most High set this man up to be very deceptive, very cunning. But just like we read previously, you know, we're not ignorant of these things, you know. And plus, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has given us the eyesight that we read about in Revelations, the 3rd chapter and 18 verses, see through things, you know. What's the possible outcome? You know, we know, pursuant to Revelations 12 and 12, let's read it. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And you see the thing with Trump. Trump is like Obama. He has a very occultic personality, and he has a lot of strong followers. Now, granted, some of the shit that Trump say, you could be a logical individual and agree with it. For example, if you're in Washington, D.C., the crime is up like crazy, which Esau done cause, all right? This guy is saying, look, we got to bring it down and bring the government. You might agree with that. Like, shit, man, the crime is crazy. Everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing homeless people. I'm getting robbed. I need more safety. So people could just be saying that just off the strength of that's what they're experiencing, and they don't even realize in the grand scheme of things, you're in the midst of a psychological operation. And that psychological operation is going to be a small little test run, okay, on what it's like to implement. And they start with DC. DC is very small, you know. How much people can we get behind this? You know, how many hires, how many people are motivated now to say, look, let's make a change and crack down on crime, what have you? Because they have to expand that you know, that force. How many people is willing to sign up, you know, and take a look at it and see, you know? And guess what? They ideally would want crime to go down, because if crime goes down, then they could say, look, it was a success. We should therefore now use it in other cities. You see? Let's get the federal government involved in other cities where crime is up. Next thing you know, you get accustomed to that, and when they're ready, they roll out the big guns. What's the big guns? Foreign agents, okay? Blue helmets type shit going on, you know? And that's somewhere down the line, you know? So that's how they think, and that's how they move. Revelations 2:10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, right? And look, a lot of people also agree that they should be putting these kids behind bars, you know? These teenagers behind bars, to do something, some sort of punishment for them committing criminal acts, you know? And again, if that becomes the norm, then they could say, look, we should be putting some of these radical preachers behind bars. That's how come you got to be very mindful of what you say, because when this devil is ready to use that powerful media, that powerful weapon known as the media, he could paint any narratives, you know? We don't really truly know how much crime is up in DC for certain, unless you live in there, you know, experiencing it. But this man, with the power of the media, he can make you have like a mass hysteria mind, okay? Remember the thing with the drones? Remember the thing with the planes? You look into it, oh, planes are crashing, then, but really in factuality, there was more plane crashes during the time of Biden for that same time period. But it wasn't being played on the news. It's the same thing they do. They play with Jake. They play with Jake Ma. When they're ready, they could just snag some footage anywhere of a cop killing a Jake, an Edomite cop killing a Jake, rouse Jake emotions up, and they typically pop out when it's voting season. Every time it's time to vote, BLM pops out. Like, Jake doesn't notice that shit. Every time it's time to vote, there's something in the news, whether it's George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, the nigga with the cigarette. You know, even this one. This guy on the news I was watching, and he was like, oh, Trump is targeting minority communities. But that's also race baiting, because, first of all, if it was high crime in so-called minority communities, then wouldn't you want to help? You know what I'm saying? But it's that type of shit they do to play on Jake emotion. So the media is a very powerful tool, all right, of controlling one's mind. So you have to really approach the information you get from the news as objectively as possible. You know, try to just look at facts and data, and don't get wrapped up in your feelings, because that's what ESOs, they mastered that, man. They mastered that shit, bro. You see? It says, some of you into prison, that you may have tribulation 10 days. Now, 10 represents perfection. All right? Meaning, if the Most High put a brother in that situation where they lock you up, that 10 days is going to be the perfect amount of time that you can endure. You see, some brothers may be able to do a week, some brothers a month, whatever. Some brother a day. You know, it's going to be the perfect amount of tests for you when that time comes. You know, if that's your lot. It says, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. See, so we have to be faithful to the very end in this thing, you know, because persecution will come for teaching this word, man. Especially when that RFID microchip becomes mandated. You know, we telling people not to get it. They're gonna use some rules. Some of the guys, of course, is gonna come in a form of safety as sacrifice and liberty. What is this? A cyber attack, and a major cyber attack, and the only way to get access to all your funds or what have you and do transactions is this chip. They could do many different things, man. All right, but guess what? We here at Great Millstone, we're gonna be the one standing strong and bold, Lil Woolen, all right, telling you, look, that's the mark of that's the mark of the beast. Okay, you take that and you won't obtain salvation. So yeah, let's see where this goes. You know, let's see if they keep expanding this. Hey, look, man, Trump, best president yet, man, because it ain't even been a year yet, and just so many shit, man, from the crypto, the stable coin. It's like, man, this guy don't slow down. You know, doesn't slow down. So keep going as quote unquote warp speed, man. Because the quicker this man establish his enterprise, the quicker we get our kingdom. All right. So speed it the hell up. Do what you gotta do. And roll out. Shit. All the bars roll out. Alright, with that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rechak Wadash, that belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.